Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of There's a Will. In this particular edition, we will be talking about our premonitions for the coming year, our New Year's resolutions. Nicholas has a New Year's revolution, and he's going to be telling us about that. I believe it involves baking. And we have with us also Anthony McFarland Gonzalez from beautiful downtown Bydgoszcz in his penthouse overlooking the city, from which he controls the scenario. How about that?
Very good.
Yeah. Now, we that's what you told me.
It's kind of true.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know. How's your Scooby, your dog?
Rambunctious and terrifying as ever with those little sharp teeth.
Is he there with you now?
Yeah, give me a second. I'll get him. Give me a second.
I saw you looking around.
Yeah, trying to keep an eye on this little bugger.
Oh, he's very pretty, isn't he? Very handsome. How old?
11 weeks now.
It is beautiful. He was not going to get a lot bigger than that, is he?
Oh, no, he's going to get a lot bigger.
He is?
12 kilos.
Oh, 12 kilos. Okay. Yeah, but he's got basically his sort of look and shape by now, yeah? Yeah, his
Pretty
face.
much, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly what he's going to look like when he gets older.
Yeah, super.
Okay.
Now, did you make any New Year's resolutions there, Tony?
As in predictions or just resolutions in general?
Well, let's do resolutions if you got any. And why don't I do mine and you think about it, okay? I'll do my New Year's resolutions, and you guys can contemplate and then jump in. Yeah. You know what my first one is?
No.
I resolved not to do the same stupid things this year that I did last year. I thought that'd be good.
Yeah.
Like making resolutions.
Like making resolutions.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, I did have my first resolution was going to be not to make resolutions, but I scratched that out. Number two, I'm not going to talk about the war all the time. Yeah, don't talk about the war.
Yes.
As John Cleese famously told us.
That was don't mention the war.
Don't mention the war in Faulty Towers. So there's no chance I'll be doing that. I won't be mentioning the war. Do people ever break their resolutions?
All the time.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I'm going to remember after World Cup that sport is not religion, is the opiate of the masses. Sport, not religion, is the opiate of the masses. Okay? Whatever opiate means. You know what opiate means. I mean, you're using them.
I'm not.
You are.
Of course
So that's
not.
what you said to me. You had a whole bottle. Anyway, people say you're just as old as you feel are wrong, fortunately. Okay? That wasn't a resolution.
No,
that was a quip. I
An
thought
observation.
of it. I thought I was, observation. I thought of it while I was writing, so I thought I'd put it in there. Number 5. I'm going to do my taxes before April this year.
Good luck on that one.
But I'll probably forget to pay them before June. Okay? So I'm still going to be late. Oh, it's no good, is it? I have my taxes done by the end of January and then, not pay them till they come get me. Okay. Since everything seems to be going to hell in a handbasket, I'm going to avoid handbaskets.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're going to stay away from those handbaskets.
Yes, stay away from
Because I think that'll help me in the new year. Yeah? Yeah. Not that I would know what a handbasket was.
I think it's a hand cart, isn't it, in fact?
I don't know.
In the saying, not a
Is it?
basket. Yeah.
What?
To hell in a hand cart.
In a hand cart?
Yes.
Like in a coal mine or something?
Yeah. Something like that.
All right. Number 8. I'm going to stop gossiping about people. It just goes in one ear and out my mouth. But I did want to tell you this story about Johnny and Matilda.
Johnny and Matilda.
Yeah, I mean, can I tell? No, shouldn't do that. It's already breaking my resolution. I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to stop telling people who approach me about spare change. No thanks. I'm okay. I don't need any. I've got enough. Did you get that, Tony? When they approach me, I'm going to say,
Get back here.
no, thank you. I already have some change, but thank you very much, sir, or ma'am. Sometimes it's a lady. Yeah.
Polite.
Yeah. I'm going to go a day without taking a selfie and posting it on Facebook. That'll never happen. That'll never happen.
Oh, I was going to say, if you make a better resolution, a day without coffee, yeah, that you won't survive.
No, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee. I quit. I quit drinking coffee. I drink a bit of tea in the old colonial spirit of, what was that guy who discovered the tea there in India?
I remember.
Clive of India.
Oh, Clive. Did he discover the tea in India?
Well, no, he brought it out. You know.
Okay.
He created the East India and all that stuff, didn't he?
Yeah.
The East India kind. I'm going to spend less time on screens.
That is a good resolution, actually.
That's the only one that's really probably I can do.
I think that's good.
Because I love gossiping. You know?
Yeah, I agree. That's a very sensible one.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to take some time off for a nice holiday, say a shopping spree in Moscow.
Good, if you like buying empty shelves.
That wouldn't be very rewarding, would it?
They wouldn't be very
It's
well.
like,
No.
what are you doing here? I came for shopping, comrade. Oh, that was last year, my friend. That was last year, before we decided to destroy ourselves. I'm going to read a book a month.
Well, that's very worthwhile, yes.
Yeah. It's going to be a very short book, however, and probably it will be an audio book.
Ah, okay.
And I'll probably be watching Netflix with the book on mute. But I'm going to make an effort anyway. I'm going to make a stab at it. And when people say the title, that's a famous title, I'll say, yes, I'm aware of that. Clever use of language, I'm aware of that.
Yes.
It's not really lying, is it?
No, it's not lying.
Yeah, okay. You want to impress everybody. Yeah. Anyway, I just have one final observation. About 100%, 150% of people who make New Year's resolutions eventually say, screw it, after a matter of maybe hours, days, and abandon them, abandon their resolutions. But at least I took the time to write them down and to say before everyone some of my New Year's resolutions. So what do you think of that? What do you think of that? Now, what are your New Year's resolutions? We'll do premonitions and predictions in the second half, okay? But just now, resolutions. What do you think you need to resolve that you can do better?
I don't know. I like you, I think less screen time would be very beneficial, and read more.
I think those two.
Because I fall into the temptation in the evening when I get back, if I've been reading the news and get back quite late to home, of actually not sitting and reading a book, but sort of putting some rubbish on a screen while I have a cup of tea and a sandwich.
Well, it's easy to get sucked in.
It is.
And pretty
to be
soon
fair,
you forget
some of the series that you can get on streaming are quite good. I watched one over the last few days about Bernie Madoff on Netflix.
I started watching that. It was so depressing.
Yeah, but it was actually quite interesting. And yet again,
it's interesting,
and
but
it
depressing.
follows a similar theme that we saw in The Big Short about how, in actual fact, the authorities just couldn't be bothered to investigate. Like the rate in The Big Short, for example, then the character goes and to Standard & Poor's or Moody's and said, well, why didn't you rate this junk properly? And they said, because we rely for our income on the people who are asking us to rate stuff. And then we saw, again, similar in the Madoff case. A lot of people knew what was going on, or could have, or should have suspected what was going on, and chose to turn a blind eye. Because
well, there was one guy who took billions out.
Yeah.
Because he sort of blackmailed Bernie
exactly,
Madoff. I'm not turning him, didn't ever say anything, but he let him know that he might know.
Yeah, exactly.
And kept asking for his money out very nicely.
And then he was lending Bernie more when Bernie got really close to the edge.
So if you've taken billions out, then you can afford, this is very clever.
Yeah, exactly.
And that shows you the kind of actual blackmail that does go on at high levels.
Well, this is the point. The whole system is very corrupt, and that's very disappointing, actually.
It's a very good system if you're at the top.
Yeah.
That's what that show teaches you. And if you go to the right club, and
It
if
was the
you are
same with the
completely devoid of
2008 banking
conscience.
crisis. How many people were actually brought to justice for that?
Yeah. So you've resolved not to embezzle a lot of money.
Not to embezzle a lot. Well, I wasn't going to be, not, or, even more important, not to be embezzled, I suppose, is the...
Yeah, or bamboozled.
Bamboozled, yes.
Or embezzle. Anything that sounds like that.
Exactly.
One of those two words.
Yeah.
What about you, Anthony? What words of wisdom have you on the subject of resolutions?
My own personal resolutions, or just
I think
resolutions
so.
in general?
No, your personal ones. Let's get real personal and up close here. Or up close and personal.
Well,
I'm kidding.
the first one is to, well, personal or non-personal? The personal one for me is to
whatever
qualify.
resolutions you've made, yeah. If you've made any.
Yeah, to qualify. No, Doc, I have. I made a couple. It's just two that I need to make. It's qualify enough points to make the Olympic team and continue to support the Ukrainian effort. That's pretty much it.
Okay, now the first one raises a question. Number one, did I hear you correctly?
You heard indeed correct.
Would you like
for
to
Paralympic
elaborate?
cycling.
Yeah.
Yeah, the qualification would be in the individual time trialing and road for Paralympic cycling. Since I'm injured, I can't compete like a normal athlete anymore due to my back and my shoulder. And I would like to compete either for Team USA or Poland, and I have to qualify enough points at UCI events that are coming up in April, 2 in April, 1 in May, and then 1 in August.
And what did you do to your shoulder, etc.?
2009, blew it up, fractured the shoulder, and broke my entire spine.
How'd that happen?
In Afghanistan, blown up by an IED.
Yeah, so it was a war injury. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was a point we needed to make. Yeah, I knew about this, but I thought it was a point you should say, not me. And it's miraculous that you're able to do all the cycling that you do, coming back from that injury. It's if I was wearing a hat, I'd take it off.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and so would Nicholas. So that's good. Now, what are the chances that you have to fulfill this resolution? I think it's a great one. But what are the chances there, Anthony?
Very good, because last year I went to the World Championships in the Masters and placed 11th in my category on a road bike that I was never intending to race on. And that was pretty cool. It was only 4 or 5 minutes off on a standard road bike compared to a time trial machine. And the coach for the USA Paracycling said, hey, you're definitely going to be on the next races to compete on our team, and you should be able to make a slot and be one of the athletes that are sponsored on the team. I just have to prove myself again. It's not a big deal, which is something I love to do.
Very good. And where will these Olympics take place?
The next Olympics in 2024 are going to be in Paris. The UCI events are going to be in Italy, which is the first one, which is still to be announced because they're just still trying to resolve their issues with the townships to make sure that they're squared away. Second one is going to be in Ostend, Belgium. And then the third one is going to be in Huntsville, Alabama in the United States. And I have to travel to all three of those. And then the World Masters Championship is going to be in St. Johann, Austria.
Wow, that sounds exciting. When you qualify through all that, you'll go to the Paralympics in Paris.
That's the hope. But then again, I have to make sure that I am part of the team in either one. And the interesting one, if I want to compete for Poland, I will have to have a letter written to the president from the Olympic Committee requesting me become a citizen of Poland in order to represent the Polish team, of which I will never be able to represent another team outside of Poland if that happens.
So you would become you have to apply to be a citizen, or you have to be named a citizen?
You have to apply to be a citizen.
So you have to have your application in.
Duck, yeah. So it's a letter at the same time for the president saying, hey, please make him a citizen. He's already in the application process.
Okay. Yeah. So you go to because there are two avenues to citizenship in Poland. One is through application after a period of time, and the other is through presidential appointment to citizenship, right?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
It is right.
Yeah. Did you want to ask him anything?
No?
No?
You're the boss.
I'm the boss. Did you hear that? Thanks, Nicholas.
No.
Thank you. Let me sit up a little higher here. Being the boss, it's not easy. Heavy is the head that wears a crown. Nicholas, what about your resolutions?
Didn't really make any. I've had the whole New Year.
Go on.
I've never really been a fan of this whole New Year excitement thingy.
You don't like New Year's?
I don't know, I dislike it. I just don't particularly find it any different from any other day or night.
Yeah, I don't. You know what I don't like? I don't like days where you are supposed to do things.
Exactly.
You're supposed to have a good time. You got to have a good time. I think it's often a recipe for disaster.
Of course it is.
And you should have good time as much as you can, all the time. And daily, day by day, enjoying each day. And not save up, I'm going to have the hangover for 3 days because the calendar changed, right?
Yeah, it's not that big a deal as far. I've never felt particularly attracted by the idea of a New Year's celebration, even when I was younger. It just seemed, Christmas is nice, but New Year was sort of an artificial celebration somehow.
What-
A lot of fuss made about nothing in particular.
Do you agree there, Anthony?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, New Year's is just another day. Honestly, tells you. I agree with Nick. It's just another day. You're just continuing in a daily grind, and people just don't change. It's like the resolutions are, to the ones that really keep the resolutions, power to them. But the ones that don't, which is the vast majority of the people, they just make them, and it's a good thing for them to make them feel good. But then at the same time, they just don't stick with it. And one of them is athletics and getting in shape. Literally halfway through the month of January, the vast majority of the people that go to the gyms and clubs, they make an effort and then they're done. And then what are their next resolutions? So it's just, to me, the resolutions for the New Year's is just like another goal. Either you stick with it or you don't.
Yeah. Well, when I was making my list, obviously they weren't very serious. I tend to like to take a holiday when everybody else is working, and when there's a holiday, I like to work. For example, I like to stay in the city when everybody leaves.
Yes.
And that's true all year round. And it's always been true for me. I liked London. When I lived in London, I liked it very much when everybody was gone, say during summer holiday time or winter holiday time. It was a lot more fun, you know. When only a few places are open, a lot of places are closed, but the cool places stay open, you know. You find that right pub and you can sneak in there. You know, and they're happy to see you.
Exactly.
You know, and it's just. I remember in Hampstead there was one I used to go to up in the village there. It was a lovely place, and you would see some people there. You know, they had their local Hampsteadites, but then you'd also see Peter O'Toole or somebody walk in and swan in. You know, nice stuff. Or Peter Cook or somebody like that. You know, these great people. So, and usually it was the off times.
I know there is something very attractive about the off time when things are quieter.
Yeah, I agree. I find it so. We're going to be talking in the next half about our predictions for the future. Now, Nostradamus, you may remember him. Do you remember him?
Not personally, but...
You know what I'm talking about? You never met him?
No, never met him.
No, he looks a lot like Olgierd Ujimbo,
does he?
who appears on the show
right.
sometimes. Don't you think Olgierd looks a bit like Nostradamus there, Tony?
I would have said more Hagrid from Hogwarts, from the Harry Potter.
He looks more like the who is that from? I don't know anything about Harry Potter. I'm totally ignorant.
He is the groundskeeper for the Harry Potter series in the castle.
Ah, okay. So everybody else knows that but me. You know Harry Potter.
Yeah, I've not seen them all, but I've watched a couple of them.
Well, your kids probably watched them.
When the boys were younger, they quite liked the Harry Potter films.
Yeah. My daughter watched she has all the books, the full collection, but she didn't. I don't remember taking her to the movies or something. The Lion King was the main one. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I had this whole thing on weight loss, but then Tony's already talked about weight loss. I think that, do you watch your...
Sorry about that.
What? What's that?
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I had a whole thing. But it doesn't
Yeah,
really
Tony
matter.
has told you not to bother because it's not going to work. You're going to give up. So why give up tomorrow when you can give up today?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do you watch your weight? Weight is the thing that everybody seems to watch. I mean, I have a friend who's had 2 operations. One to shrink his stomach, and the second one to bypass his stomach straight into the intestine. And I said, well, how much do you weigh? Well, my clothes are looser on me. I said, that doesn't answer the question, does it?
No, it doesn't. But I mean, you're raising an interesting point that weight, generally, obesity is a big problem.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's a serious problem now,
Yeah.
particularly in North America, the United Kingdom, and interestingly enough, in Poland.
Now, didn't
No,
used to be.
and it is because this is leading to obesity. It's leading to all sorts of other diseases, particularly diabetes, which is very, very serious, both for the individuals concerned and the cost to the public exchequer in terms of providing the health care.
Yeah, it's
So
like
I think we all owe a duty to fellow man to try and be sensible about looking after ourselves.
Yeah, it's the main thing. It's the main thing that will, weighing yourself, like once a week or even twice a week, is the main thing that will tell you about your general state of health.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, they will, of course.
And it's very easy to sneak up, and you just,
Yeah.
and you don't
I mean,
realize.
I've been consistent. My weight's been consistent for donkey's years.
Yeah. Mine was. But
I mean, it fluctuates
I
a
lost
bit
some
during
weight
the week,
recently.
but it depends. But it really has been. But you've got to be, as you get older, particularly, you've got to be more careful, just not to let it creep up bit by bit by bit.
Because it easily can do it.
You can easily do it.
And I find it's hell on my wardrobe.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, but you see, your wardrobe is, of course, by today's is looking at today's example, but particularly hellish on a good day.
What? This
This is what exactly?
It's a natty sort of Ralph Lauren
Haven't you
look.
lost the S?
It's a natty. What? Watch it.
Yeah, people pay a lot of money to enjoy this banter. If only they could.
It's a natty.
No, it's not your fault. American men do not
What are you
understand
talking?
colour.
This is a Ralph Lauren classic look. What are you talking
No, it's
about?
not a Ralph Lauren classic
Oh, it's
look.
not. I
It's
should wear a
not.
white shirt.
No, but you should. The combination is a bit.
Garish for you?
Yeah.
Really? Can we see Nicholas, please? Can we get a camera on Nicholas?
There you
And he's
are.
calling me garish.
This is not Gary. This is very tasteful. A lot
Yeah.
of colour, but very tasteful.
Canary yellow is nice. Though.
It is nice.
It's hard to find a good canary yellow shirt to go with your blazer these days.
It is hard
But
to
it
find.
is
It's
almost
actually hard to find, and that's sort of been a result of COVID. I was in London in October, walking down Jermyn Street in that part of London where you could normally, historically, have the best stuff, and the range available, even in shops which specialise in this sort of thing, is much reduced from how it used to be. Even COVID has completely destroyed.
Men's haberdashery.
Well, it seems to have done almost,
Yeah.
which is frightening when you think about it.
Well, so your resolution is to keep dressing nattily.
Well, my role is to keep dressing as I always have done.
Yeah.
But I think we shouldn't be afraid of colour. Particularly in this part of the world where the architecture is in many cases quite gloomy and grey.
Grey,
We
that's
must
true.
contribute to it.
Yeah.
But
That's
no,
why I've done what I've done.
For you've tried quite hard. I'll give you that.
I have. I really did try. In fact, I consulted a stylist for today.
Really?
All right, that's what... No, I didn't. Okay.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. Oh, they're fired.
Fine, yes.
According to Nicholas, my
Yeah,
stylist
like
is
when
fired.
it's like, sorry, just very quickly, when I was at university, a chum of mine went for his tutorial, and the tutor said to him, of course, in Oxford you have the tutorials, and the essay is a big thing. And he said, "Did you do any work for this essay?" And my friend said, "No." And the tutor said, "Thank God for that."
It was so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I didn't try at all. All right, I threw on the first thing I could find. Thank you, everybody, for watching the first part of There's a Will. We'll be back after the break. Please watch these messages of interest, and we'll be back after the break with our predictions for this year. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of controversy or controversy, as Nicholas would prefer to say, in the second half. So please come back. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. We're going to talk about predictions for 2023. And there's a number of topics we can talk about, but may I lead into this?
Please do.
With some scintillating information.
All right.
You talk about predictions. Everybody thinks they can predict things. The name that comes most to mind when we think about predictions, prognostication, is Nostradamus. And I have no idea why, because I can't understand. When I read his predictions, none of it makes sense, and it seems to me you can interpret it any way you want to.
Yes, you can.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Like astrology.
Yeah, like astrology.
The way these things are written is anybody can believe anything about anything.
That's kind of the genius of it, to get the attention. But there's an article from the Jerusalem Times, right? And in this article, it's talking about certain things that may be coming up in 2023, according to Nostradamus. And then I have in this hand, I'll just mention those briefly, and then I have in this hand predictions from 1923 in the press, hot off the presses from 1923. And we can talk about those because those are interesting. These others are not. So people are saying, did you know that when the Queen died, there were a lot of copies of Nostradamus' prophecies bought in England because people believed that he predicted that Charles will abdicate?
Nonsense.
He's not going anywhere.
Of course not.
Because of his divorce, people would be upset. Now I think they're upset about Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, don't.
I don't think they're upset.
I wish they'd stop invading my privacy.
Yeah. And now, Harry wrote this book. I predict that Harry and Meghan will disappear this year.
Yeah.
Yeah? Don't you hope so,
Everybody
Tony?
hopes that.
Please, I hope they do.
Aren't you tired of them? $100 million for that schlock that they produced? That tissue?
They should donate that $100 million to a charity because they shouldn't be entitled to that crap. They knew exactly what they were getting themselves into when they left the royal family.
Yeah.
And she damn well knew what she was getting herself into, being married to a royal.
Oh, yeah, and it's quite clear from a lot of the stuff they've used in that I didn't watch the I couldn't bring myself, but you look at the various people who've analysed it. Yeah. A lot of the stuff, the photographs that were there were clearly taken years ago with this in mind. I mean, some of those photographs, it just doesn't make any sense. They must have had film crews with them all the time, or their own photographers. So this must have been planned a long time ago. I'm sorry, this woman is a useless actress who saw as an opportunity. I mean, how can you know, there are so many inconsistencies in what they've said in these programs, what's written in the book. But how can you not invite your father to your wedding, but you invite two complete strangers? For example, George Clooney and his wife. And what shows the vacuousness, with all due respect, of the Californians is that these people are turned up at the wedding of a complete stranger because they all wanted a bit of royal stardust.
Let me get this right. So you think it's wrong for her to marry into the royal family simply to meet George Clooney?
Yes.
You would consider that wrong. What say you, Tony?
I do.
You consider that wrong, or perhaps even evil? That type of social climate?
I think it's just
what the heck?
Morally and unethically. It's just
no, but women are allowed to do whatever they want, I thought. Isn't that feminism?
No, but that's not being... For instance, what if a guy were to do the same thing to marry, for instance, say, Princess Anne? What would they say? Same thing. Guys, it's the same thing. It's equal in both ways. For me, she married into the family for status because she was going absolutely flipping nowhere, and then all of a sudden she has this.
Suits is
And now
not
she's
your
on the
favorite
spotlight.
program.
No, but I'm afraid their mission has failed because even in America, people are turning against them slightly. And the big joke is having invited
not even slightly.
the Obamas to their wedding. I gather that whenever Obama's having some fancy party next summer or whatever, or this summer, and didn't invite them back. So there we are.
He didn't invite them back?
He didn't invite them. So it has failed. She is an actress who was a minor role in a minor television, or actually it was a cable show in Canada. And has tried to create this life, and their only status at all depends on his royal connections. And they use that to advance themselves in a peculiar way by trashing the thing which gives them the status in the first place. Because otherwise, Mr. and Mrs. has been and I gather that even by the standards of Montecito, their house is not that great and their wealth is not that great. So they're, Mr. and Mrs. Nobody trying to hobnob, and he has a terrible life. What does he do all day? What does he do all day? He has no friends there. He's burnt bridges now with his family, presumably with all his friends in England. Certainly the military now, after what he had to say in this book, are disowning him. The poor chap is a man desperately in need of some sort of therapy and some sort of help, instead of which he has a woman who, instead of giving him support, as you might expect from a wife, feeds his paranoia.
Maybe the divorce that Nostradamus is talking about is Meghan and Harry's divorce.
Because she's.
I don't think they're going to make it.
She's clearly the sort of woman who, when he is no longer useful to, and I fear that day is coming sooner than we think, will get rid of him for somebody else.
Yeah, and she'll do just
the
fine.
problem is any of the sort of person she's likely to, seek to attract will probably think, hang on a minute, this woman will be filming and photographing everything to trash my family in the future. So I think her chances, even among the billionaires she no doubt thinks she'd be entitled to marry next, are pretty remote. I mean, these people are too stupid. And the low point came in that programme where she mocked the curtsy to the Queen.
Yeah.
I mean, even for Americans, that went too far.
I can see that you're wound up.
Yeah, I'm not wound up. I just wish they would stop invading my privacy.
I agree. What I disliked, though, was when they, particularly with her, the feckless strumpets threw her ex-husband under the bus. I mean, completely disrespected him. He was apparently a nice guy and never did anything wrong to her.
No, well, but exactly.
And that shows me.
Maybe she trashed her own family.
That is the sort of social climbing witch that she is. Okay,
Yes.
if we can agree on that. 1923, what do you reckon people were thinking in 1923 about the future? It's a long time ago. It's actually 100 years. And I just read a survey of the different papers and mediums of the time, the news mediums, and one of them was that there would be a lot of traffic in the sky, and people would be very definite radio designed pathways, highways in the sky, and there would just be an amazing amount, a huge amount of vehicles all the time in the sky. Of course, that's not true. But other interesting things. How old do you think they thought people would live to be back in 1923?
100?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
At least.
They thought 100, and 150 would be normal, and even 300 years old.
Gosh.
Yeah. Do you think they thought
That would be nice.
Do you think that they thought there would be beauty pageants in the future?
Not really.
No, but why? No more beauty pageants, but there was a reason why. Can you guess?
No,
Everybody would be so beautiful. That didn't come true,
No, it didn't.
except for Nicholas and Anthony. It didn't come true that year. Yeah. You guys are beautiful, but they said everybody would be so beautiful they'd no longer need beauty contests. That didn't happen. They didn't predict a massive wave of obesity, and they probably didn't predict. They didn't predict fast food.
No.
They thought we'd be eating pills, or, and that would give us our nourishment, and everybody would be, sort of, their genes would be manipulated to create this. An elimination of diseases in the womb, and that sort of thing. How long do you think they thought the work day would be?
Very short. They probably imagined machines would do all the work.
Yeah. Well, machines, electricity, etc. How long do you think the work day was? Have a guess.
2 hours.
What?
2 hours.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
I was going to say something similar.
It's not 4 hours. And according to this, but 2 hours is as good again. A lot less, as we said to begin with. They also believe that all basic diseases, including cancer, would be eradicated. But we still have huge problems with that.
On the contrary, there was a scientist in 1963 that did find radiological defeat to cancers, and he was quieted by the pharmaceutical companies up until just recently. So we did find the defeat, but we just never implemented it because of greed. And that's one of the big things that we didn't predict back in 1923 that would still be a plague to us.
So you're saying that they make so much money off the drugs and the care of the patients that they were willing to get cancer themselves, these doctors? And the people in the pharmaceutical companies, rather than cure their relatives, they would be greedy enough to just rely on luck?
Yeah, pharmaceuticals and HMOs all just want to keep on driving the mean machine that drives and feeds them money.
So they even see their own family die of cancer. You believe that?
Yes, sir.
Huh. I don't know if I find that hard to believe.
I find it hard to believe, although nothing's impossible.
Although I've seen some pretty dire things, but I find that hard to believe. That would be quite a conspiracy. Tuberculosis has made a comeback. That was a terrible disease 100 years ago. And a lot of people combined with the flu epidemic, the Spanish flu epidemic of that time, just before it, it killed a lot of people. I mean, talk about, if you got tuberculosis and Spanish flu, you're not going to be able to breathe at all, are you?
No.
Another thing was, what do you think they thought the population of the United States would be?
100 million.
Tony?
Oh, I have no clue.
300 million. Clue. So they were about right on that, weren't they? 300 million.
Yeah, we're 30 million off, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, about right. And the population of Canada would be 100 million. But it's not even 30, is it?
No, it's only
25?
30. I think it's 33 million.
Is it that much? Is it over 30?
Yeah, because I think Poland has a lot more people per capita than Canada, because I think we were 38 or 30 or 42 million here.
Yeah, that's about, well, who knows right now with the people who've come to live in Poland or have part-time residence here, plus the refugees from Ukraine. So it's definitely over 40 million for now. Okay, the thing they really got right, there was one thing they really got right, and that was the Dick Tracy watch, that people would have, they would have telephones like watches on their arm. They predicted that. There you go. You got an Apple there? Yeah. That. I mean, even when you were a kid, you thought, that's not possible. That's way out there somewhere when we have when we're flying to Mars or wherever. But of course, we now know that people have watches. They can talk and have conversations with the watch on their arm. That's amazing. Yeah, don't you find? What about your predictions for the coming year? Shall we start with the war? That's the biggest one, and I suppose it deserves the most time. What's going to happen in the war? Will it end this year, or will it continue? And what ramifications are there? And what will happen to some of the key protagonists in the war? What do you say, Nicholas?
Who knows? It'll probably grind to some sort of stalemate.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. It's beginning to look a bit like the First World War, isn't it? People digging in and nobody actually able to make a decisive move. Because it isn't really, Russia could easily be defeated if this were a conventional war, because everybody would just say to Russia, please stop or we're going to blow everything up. But we're not going to do that for obvious reasons, because folk do fear some sort of escalation, particularly with nuclear weapons. So therefore, it sort of ties the hands of Ukraine to a certain extent, because what they would ideally start doing now is sort of blowing up Russian bases somewhere in Russia to force the Russians to retreat. But as we've now seen with increasing supplies of modern weapons, particularly armoured vehicles now, then maybe Ukraine would be able to build up sufficient materiel that the Russians might think again, or somebody would be able to negotiate some sort of peace.
What do you think, Tony? You agree with Nicholas?
I don't agree on the stalemate. One of them is going to lose because they're running out of munitions and materials and personnel. There's going to be a point where, obviously, it's not going to be Ukraine losing on that because of the Western allies, but eventually they're going to run out of people that are going to be able to keep pushing the fight. That's what I fear that Ukraine's going to run out of, are enough personnel to man the equipment that we're sending over there to actually combat and fight Russians. Russians are running very low on munitions and personnel already as they speak. Most of their fighting men have already left, and now they're just still trying to push the propaganda. Recently, they have told, there's been intelligence that has been pushed out to some of the civilians that are in the Donbass and Luhansk regions that stay at home, celebrate your Christmases, because they celebrate Christmas around this time frame. Do not go near your churches because they are at fear or at risk of getting blown up, and that's going to be used as propaganda to the Russians to actually bring people into conscript. So that's one of the things that I believe that is going to be the biggest thing to push. So my prediction is that there's not going to be a stalemate. It's either Ukraine pushes or Russian pushes back because of intelligence that's being pushed to them.
I'm going to fall between the two of you. Thanks, Tony. I'm going to fall between the two of you. I think that there will continue to be this line, the original line, and I think that will possibly maintain a stalemate there. I think that the Russians did not dig in well on the other places they took. They were taking too heavy losses, and on the other hand, they too heavy losses of men, and they were spread too thin to really take charge in those areas and dig in. The other thing is, I think that there may be, a flanking maneuver that is going to shake things up as there is a drive to Melitopol, and if we look to the south, that the Crimea may become threatened and even blockaded, isolated. That is something that will keep things, while there may be a stalemate, as Nicholas is saying, along that old line of demarcation, that the destabilization in the southern sphere, led by the invasion of the retaking of Kherson, the crossing of the Dnipro now, which is taking place as we speak, and the drive to Melitopol is going to drive a wedge. It's going to trap a lot of Russians and I think create quite a panic. But we'll see. So I think there's going to be movement in the places that were overrun by the Russians since the beginning of the war, and possible stalemate in those other places. I don't see those being taken back anytime soon. Do you, Nicholas?
No.
No. Do you, Tony?
I'm having a hard time with the Luhansk region because they actually have made advancements in the Luhansk region. Not much, probably a couple kilometers. But the Donbass region, no, they're not going to make any movement in the Donbass region. That's the most heavily fortified Russian area that they've had ever since 2014 when they came in. The Crimea is going to be a tough one because the Russians have sustained major losses on their fleet, on the Black Sea Fleet. They continue to take those losses because Ukraine now is equipped with unmanned surface vehicles that they continues to use very well, and they're also being brought in with another bunch of UAVs that are going to be conducting the same kind of aerial attacks into ships as these Iranian drones are, because they are actually being tested as we speak in that field. So I believe that Crimea is going to fall back into Ukrainian hands in sometime in the very near future because they are doing that movement.
So you agree with me on that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What else do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen in politics? You know, we have the leader of the free world is a man called Joe Biden. Is this going to be a good year for him? Or
no, it's going to be a tough year.
Why is that? Why do you think?
Because he's fighting two wars. He's fighting two wars on a different fronts. Technically not fighting the wars, but technically helping out two countries on two fronts. So I believe that's what's going to split him and his resources very much so. They're trying to regain a U.S. base in Taiwan, as they used to have one there, or was it Singapore? I can't remember which one, but they're trying to get back into one of the ports there and to sustain U.S. troops to help them ward off the potential invasion of China, because they have become extremely aggressive in the past couple weeks. And then, of course, now what he's done with giving more aid, about $3 billion worth of aid to the Ukrainians, which includes Bradleys, munitions, 50 Bradleys, or is it 50 or 400? I can't remember which one. I think it's 50. And these are the latest M2 A3s. And those are the ones that have digital thermal night visions and the upgraded 30 millimeter cannon, or it's just kind of like a Gatling gun, but it's really nice. It's automatic. Heavy as hell and very, very predictable, and at the same time it has a stabilization which is much more robust than the 72 tanks that they have. The Russian T-72 tanks that they have. But yeah, needless to say, he's going to have a battle there, and that could potentially have ramifications if Russia, well, not Russia, but Putin decides to continue to push the war. He could probably have some tactical nuke again. That's not out of the war. That's not out of the war scenario. We're still predicting and preparing for that, but we don't know.
What about Biden? Is he going to have a good year or a bad year? Because Congress, if they ever, is in Republican hands, not by much, but it is in Republican hands, which could be bad news for the president if the Republicans ever choose a leader, and then, which probably is going to happen soon. And it's not such a bad thing. A lot of people think it's bad that they're arguing about who the leader is. I don't think that's so bad. I think these arguments within the Congress and fleshing things out honestly and in the light of the day are very good, actually, and that's the way the system's set up.
I absolutely agree with that, but the problem that we're having here is that he's dealing with two wars and two fronts.
He's got two wars. So China and Russia, is that what you're saying?
Back.
So they're not wars necessarily. In terms of America, they are conflict zones. They are potential world war starting spots. Is a nuclear weapon, I think Mr. Biden's going to have a difficult year, but he's very lucky. He's got the luck of the Irish, and he's been very, very good with like employment numbers recently and a couple of other things. Inflation is supposed to come down this year, so hard to say. Very hard to predict what's going to happen in the economy once it normalizes after coming out of COVID and supply chain problems. So he may be the benefit of just some normalization. I still think that digital currency is going to be a major problem, and what to do about it, and if governments come into it, start creating artificial currency, even more artificial than the money we have that's being printed at great speed. And creating this inflation.
But getting back to the Congress, well, if you don't mind, they're bickering like kids. It's like they're not going to get anything done. It's not at the speed that our forefathers used to do that, especially during the times of World War II. Congress was together, so were the Republicans, the Democrats, and all the constitutionalists. They agreed on the thing that the fate of humanity, World War II, needs to be completed.
We're running out of time. I just wanted to, this is a very good point, and it's a point we could more or less end on, which is that the threat that is posed in the world at the moment necessitates not a 19th century squabble, which was the last time Congress was squabbling like this, but some kind of solidarity, some kind of central ground, some kind of compromise between both of those major parties. The reason we're talking about the United States is because everything the United States does, with its massive economy and massive military, affects the rest of the world, and the way the rest of the world does business and lives. So, in this sense, we have to wish and hope that the president will have a good year, because that should translate to a good year for all of us. And after all, we're all in this together, one way or another. Are we not, Nicholas?
We are.
We are. That's all we've got for this show. Thank you very much for your resolutions.
Always a pleasure.
Lack of resolutions. And your prognostication, which will see stalemate for the Russians along the original borders before the invasion, and continual losses, and perhaps even the loss of Crimea as the year goes on. A decent year for Mr. Biden, we shall see. And that's all we've got for today on this edition of There's a Will. Thank you for watching, and may I say, you're all looking well. Why don't you stay that way?